There is a profound and hidden truth known only to those who possess true inner strength, those men who stand firm in the face of life's inevitable storms. They are not swayed by fleeting emotions or unpredictable desires. Their resolve remains unshaken by the winds of frustration, fear, or temptation. These men understand something that the world often overlooks: the immense power that comes from mastering oneself. This wisdom is rooted in the ancient philosophy of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches the importance of self-control, emotional resilience, and rationality. Though centuries have passed since Stoicism was first articulated, its relevance has not diminished. Today, it speaks with the same urgency, urging us to strip away the fragile facades we often hide behind and embrace a deeper, more authentic way of living. In a world brimming with distractions that lure us away from our truest selves, it's easy to get lost. We live in an age where everything from social media to consumerism pushes us toward instant gratification and shallow pursuits. These distractions often blur the line between what we truly want and what we are told we should want. Among the most complex and subtle challenges a man faces is the dynamic between men and women. The ways in which men interact with women can be especially tricky, not just because of romantic or sexual attraction, but because these interactions often expose vulnerabilities, desires, insecurities, and impulses that are difficult to control. Without a solid foundation of inner strength, a man can quickly be swept away by the emotional currents of these relationships. This is where the philosophy of Stoicism offers crucial guidance. A man who embraces Stoic principles does not rely on the fluctuating tides of desire or emotional reaction to navigate his interactions with women. Instead, he is grounded in a deeper sense of self, rooted in his own principles, and guided by reason. He recognizes that true strength lies not in the ability to act on every impulse, but in the wisdom to know what to avoid. This is not about repression or suppression of natural feelings, but about developing the discipline to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. A Stoic man knows that by exercising self-control, he not only protects himself from harm, but also protects the respect and integrity of those around him. His actions are deliberate, not driven by fleeting passions or external pressures, but by an inner moral compass that remains steady through life's most chaotic moments. This self-mastery is not a form of cold detachment or emotional indifference. Rather, it is a powerful, grounded form of emotional intelligence. The Stoic man feels emotions as deeply as anyone else, but he has cultivated the ability to manage them in a way that is productive and honorable. He doesn't allow himself to be ruled by impulsive desires or societal expectations. He knows that true power lies in the ability to choose his responses, to remain composed in the face of emotional turbulence. Number 1. Never show weakness in self-control. In life, one of the greatest strengths you can cultivate is the ability to maintain self-control, especially when faced with difficult situations or intense emotions. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This profound insight teaches us that the obstacles we encounter are not just barriers to our progress but opportunities for growth and development. What seems like an obstacle is actually a chance to push forward, learn, and overcome. This mindset is key when it comes to managing emotions, particularly in moments of stress or frustration. When you find yourself in challenging emotional situations, especially in front of others, there's often a temptation to react impulsively. Whether you're feeling angry, anxious, or upset, it can feel natural to let these emotions take the wheel. However, when we lose control over our reactions, particularly in front of others, we risk losing our sense of power and self-respect. In those moments, it's important to remember that your emotional state doesn't define you unless you allow it to. If you let frustration, irritation, or insecurity dictate your behavior, you hand over control of the situation and ultimately your own dignity. Imagine you're in a meeting or social setting and something happens that frustrates you. Your first instinct might be to lash out, whether it's a sharp comment or a visible display of anger. However, in doing so, you not only allow the external situation to control your response, but you also allow others to witness your loss of composure. This can have lasting effects on how others perceive you. Emotional reactions that are not carefully managed often leave us feeling regretful later on. That's why it's crucial to learn how to pause and take control of your emotions before they take control of you. At the core of this practice lies the idea of self-mastery. Stoicism, which has long been associated with the likes of Marcus Aurelius, teaches that while we cannot control the events or people around us, we always have control over how we respond to them. In every situation, we are faced with a choice: to react impulsively or to respond with calm, thoughtful awareness. The ability to control your emotions, especially in challenging moments, is one of the most important skills you can develop. The goal isn't to suppress what you're feeling, but to acknowledge it and then consciously choose how to respond. Self-control, then, is not about denying your emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about recognizing that emotions are temporary and do not have to dictate your actions. Let's say you feel an intense surge of anger when someone disrespects you. If you immediately act on that anger, you may regret your words or actions. On the other hand, if you take a deep breath, step back, and give yourself a moment to process your feelings, you create space between your emotional reaction and your behavior. Number 2, never seek validation through compliments. In today's world, it's incredibly easy to get caught up in seeking approval from others. Compliments, praise, and external recognition can be deeply gratifying. They give us a sense of affirmation that what we're doing or who we are matters, but there's a hidden danger in relying too heavily on such external validation. The more you seek approval, the more you risk losing your sense of self and your own inner compass. As Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, wisely put it, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." In simpler terms, it's not the compliments or criticism we receive that truly shape us, but the way we interpret and react to them. When you depend on others to validate your worth, you give away control of your happiness and self-esteem. If you're constantly seeking praise, you set yourself up for disappointment. Compliments, while nice, are fleeting. They come and go, often depending on someone else's mood or perception of you at the time. The moment you base your self-worth on others' opinions, you leave your emotional well-being in their hands. This creates a fragile foundation, one that can crumble as easily as it was built. What you need to focus on instead is cultivating internal confidence, one that doesn't need constant confirmation from others. A person who understands their purpose, who knows what drives them and why they do what they do, does not need praise to feel valued. When you live with purpose, you automatically live with integrity, because you know that your worth isn't defined by someone else's approval. Your actions, rooted in your values, become your true source of strength. You become someone who is respected not because they're seeking validation, but because they stand firm in their beliefs, no matter the outside opinion. Living with purpose means you are driven by something larger than yourself. It's a kind of clarity that cuts through the noise of everyday life and provides you with a clear direction. When you pursue your goals with authenticity, your confidence grows and it radiates outward. Others notice it, not because you're looking for attention, but because they see someone who knows who they are and what they're about. This type of self-assurance is magnetic. It's not loud or boastful. Rather, it's a quiet, unshakable strength that naturally draws respect from those around you. Moreover, a man who seeks validation through compliments and external recognition often becomes distracted by the opinions of others. He's constantly measuring his actions against how others perceive him, which can lead to a life of uncertainty. This can create a cycle of dependency on praise, where your emotional state rises and falls with the next compliment or criticism. But when you operate from a place of purpose, you aren't swayed by outside opinions. You are resilient. You understand that what matters most is the work you put into the world, the relationships you build, and the integrity you carry with you, not the applause you receive along the way. Number 3, never place a woman on a pedestal. In our society, it's common to hear phrases like, "she's perfect," or "she's the one." These expressions often reflect the tendency to elevate someone we admire to an idealized status, putting them on a pedestal. While admiration is natural, this idealization can be harmful, both to you and the woman you place in this elevated position. When you set someone above the ordinary human experience, you're not only distancing yourself from them, but you're also setting up expectations that are bound to lead to disappointment. One of the main dangers of putting someone on a pedestal is that you strip them of their humanity. The truth is, no person, regardless of gender, is perfect. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, our virtues and vices. When you elevate a woman to a level of perfection that no human can realistically reach, you are overlooking the complexity of who she truly is. You end up focusing on an ideal, not a person with flaws, struggles, and growth potential. In doing so, you take away the very thing that makes her relatable and real, her humanity. This idealization can create an unhealthy dynamic in the relationship. Instead of seeing her as an equal, you start to view her as someone unreachable, almost like a distant, flawless figure. This imbalance doesn't allow for vulnerability, honesty, or genuine connection. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect and equality, not on one person being placed on a higher pedestal than the other. When you put a woman on a pedestal, you unintentionally turn her into an object of admiration rather than someone to connect with on a deeper level. You might even subconsciously expect her to fulfill an image you've created, rather than accept her for who she truly is. Moreover, idealizing a woman can place unrealistic pressures on her. No one wants to feel like they must live up to an impossible standard, and no one can be perfect all the time. If she feels as though she has to maintain this perfect image to live up to your expectations, it can create immense stress and anxiety. No human being, woman or man, is capable of being flawless day in and day out. By placing someone on a pedestal, you're burdening them with the weight of trying to maintain an illusion of perfection. Over time, this can lead to frustration and feelings of inadequacy, as it becomes impossible to meet those expectations consistently. Additionally, when you idolize a woman, you're doing a disservice to your relationship with her. The foundation of any meaningful relationship is mutual understanding, respect, and honesty. If you see her as perfect, you might not be as open with her about your own needs, feelings, or vulnerabilities. There may be a sense of one-sidedness, where you're admiring her from a distance but not truly connecting on a deeper emotional level. True intimacy comes from embracing each other's flaws and imperfections, acknowledging that both of you are works in progress. If you focus solely on her strengths and idealize her, you may miss the opportunity for deeper connection and authentic communication. Number 4. Never be driven by lust or desire. Lust and desire are two of the most powerful forces that can influence our lives, often in ways we don't fully realize. These emotions can feel overwhelming, like waves crashing over us, pulling us away from our true direction. When we are driven by desire, we find ourselves chasing after fleeting pleasures and temporary satisfactions that promise happiness, but often leave us feeling emptier than before. The very nature of desire is to be insatiable. It makes us believe that once we get what we want, we will be content, only to find that the satisfaction is short-lived and the cycle begins again. In this way, desire not only clouds the mind but dulls the soul, leaving us disconnected from our deeper sense of self. The Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus, in his teachings, highlighted the dangers of letting our passions, particularly desire, rule over us. According to him, a wise person must not be carried away by emotions like desire. Instead, they should work to control these impulses. This is not to say that desire itself is inherently bad, but rather that it can become destructive when it dominates our thoughts and actions. A person who constantly chases their desires becomes like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the winds of impulse rather than steering toward a purposeful destination. This lack of control over one's emotions, Musonius argues, prevents true freedom. The idea of freedom is central to Stoic philosophy. True freedom doesn't come from the ability to do whatever we want in any given moment. In fact, living a life dictated by desire actually makes us slaves to those desires. A person driven by lust, greed, or the need for instant gratification is not free. They are constantly chasing after external things that they believe will make them happy. They are reactive rather than proactive, and their happiness depends on outside circumstances rather than on inner peace or self-control. In this sense, the pursuit of desire doesn't lead to liberation, but to bondage, as the individual becomes entangled in the endless pursuit of fleeting pleasures. This is where the wisdom of Stoicism offers a solution: the practice of self-discipline and the cultivation of inner clarity. Musonius Rufus and other Stoic philosophers believed that the wise person is one who takes charge of their mind and emotions. By mastering our desires, we can reclaim our freedom and achieve a deeper sense of peace. When we stop being slaves to our impulses, we open up the possibility of living in alignment with our true values and long-term goals, rather than reacting to every passing urge. In this way, we create a life of purpose and meaning, rather than one dictated by transient desires. Living by desire often leads us to focus on short-term gains, neglecting the long-term consequences of our actions. For example, we might give in to the temptation of indulging in unhealthy food, overspending on things we don't need, or engaging in behaviors that promise instant pleasure but have negative effects on our health, relationships, or finances. Number 5. Never engage in emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation is one of the most damaging tactics a person can use, yet it's often overlooked as a subtle form of control. When you manipulate someone's emotions, you're attempting to sway their decisions, actions, or feelings by playing on their vulnerabilities, using guilt, fear, shame, or sympathy to get your way. While it might seem like an effective way to get the outcome you want, it ultimately reveals a deeper weakness within the person doing the manipulating. Emotional manipulation is not the act of someone in control, but of someone too scared to face reality or stand on their own. At its core, emotional manipulation is an attempt to control. When a person resorts to manipulating another, they're not engaging with the world honestly or directly. Instead, they're trying to bend someone's emotions to fit their needs, often without regard for the other person's feelings, boundaries, or well-being. This creates a power imbalance where one person's emotional state is being used as leverage over another. It's an act of emotional cowardice, an avoidance of the discomfort of confrontation or honest communication. It's far easier to make someone feel guilty or afraid than to face the truth or admit vulnerability. The true warrior, by contrast, doesn't manipulate, but leads with clarity and strength. A warrior, in the truest sense, has no need to control others through emotional means. They've already mastered themselves. This is why Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Emotional manipulation only works when the person doing it lacks self-mastery. It's the insecure, those who are afraid to face their own flaws and weaknesses, who resort to such tactics. But a warrior has no such fear. They understand that true freedom comes from inner control, from the ability to face challenges directly and honestly, without resorting to shortcuts that harm others. At the heart of emotional manipulation is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being alone, or fear of failure. People who manipulate others are often motivated by a deep insecurity. They may be afraid that if they don't control the emotional landscape around them, they will lose something important, whether it's a relationship, approval, or their own sense of safety. This fear creates a desperate need to cling to power, to keep others under their emotional thumb. The manipulator avoids the risk of facing the truth or being vulnerable, instead choosing to exploit the emotions of others as a way to maintain a sense of control. However, the problem with emotional manipulation is that it is ultimately a form of dishonesty. It might work in the short term, but over time, people see through it. Manipulated individuals may comply out of fear or guilt, but they will eventually feel resentful and betrayed. Relationships built on manipulation are fragile. Trust erodes and the bond between people weakens. People are naturally drawn to authenticity, to those who are confident enough to express themselves openly and honestly. Number 6, never let fear dictate your actions. Fear is a powerful emotion that can deeply influence the choices we make in life. It often creeps into our minds when we're about to do something important or challenging. It whispers in our ears, telling us we're not good enough, that we will fail, or that it's safer to stay where we are rather than take risks. At its core, fear wants to protect us, but in doing so, it can also paralyze us. It convinces us that avoiding action is the best choice, even though it's usually the opposite of what we need to thrive. But here's the truth. Fear is often a liar. It distorts the reality of the situation, inflating potential dangers and making them seem much bigger than they are. In his teachings, the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus shared a powerful insight. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. This idea highlights the fact that while we can't control what happens around us, whether it's a difficult situation, a new challenge, or an unexpected setback, we have complete control over how we respond to it. Fear, just like any other emotion, is a reaction to external circumstances, but we don't have to let it control us. Instead of allowing fear to determine our actions, we can choose how to respond to it. The choice is always ours. The first step in handling fear is understanding it. Fear is not something we can simply wish away or ignore. It's an emotion that has evolved to help us respond to danger or uncertainty. But in many situations, fear overstates the risk. We might feel afraid of speaking up in a meeting or trying something new because we fear judgment or failure. But these fears often don't match the actual consequences of taking action. When we break things down, we realize that the risks are usually much smaller than our minds lead us to believe. Fear thrives in the unknown, and the more we face it, the less power it has over us. One of the most important things we can do when fear appears is to acknowledge it without letting it take over. Picture fear as a passenger in your car. It's sitting in the back seat, maybe even loudly giving you advice or expressing doubt, but you're the one driving. You're in control of the destination, the speed, and the direction. Fear can be there in the back seat, but you get to decide whether you let it influence your decisions. It's important to recognize that feeling fear doesn't mean we have to stop or turn back. It just means we're stepping outside our comfort zone, where growth happens. Another key point is that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act in spite of it. Courage isn't about feeling no fear at all. It's about recognizing the fear, acknowledging it, and then continuing to move forward anyway. Many successful people, whether in business, art, or personal development, have experienced fear in their journeys. But what sets them apart is that they didn't let that fear stop them. They took action anyway, often one small step at a time, pushing through the discomfort. Number 7. Never act out of impulse. In a world where speed and instant gratification often take center stage, it can be tempting to act on impulse. Whether it's firing off a quick response in a heated argument, making an impulsive purchase, or acting on a sudden craving, we've all experienced moments when our emotions take the driver's seat. However, impulsivity is the enemy of thoughtful decision-making. It's a reaction born from our immediate feelings or desires, and it often leads us astray. In these moments, we abandon reason and surrender to the chaos of our emotions, making choices that may not align with our long-term values or goals. The core problem with impulsive behavior is that it bypasses rational thought and deliberation. Acting out of impulse often means we're reacting to life rather than thoughtfully engaging with it. Instead of making decisions that reflect who we truly are or what we truly want, we act based on temporary feelings. The result? We may find ourselves regretting what we've said or done, as these actions are driven by fleeting emotions rather than well-considered reflection. In a way, impulsivity hands over control to circumstances, leaving us to clean up the mess afterward. This is where Stoic philosophy offers valuable guidance. Stoicism teaches that we have the power to choose our reactions, no matter the external circumstances. It stresses the importance of reflecting on situations before acting. A true Stoic is not someone who reacts in haste or lets their emotions dictate their behavior. Rather, they are a person who cultivates the ability to step back, think critically, and act in line with their deeper principles. This is a mark of maturity and wisdom, the ability to pause, assess, and then act intentionally. One of the most famous Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, understood the power of controlling one's response to life. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This quote encapsulates a central Stoic teaching that while we cannot control what happens around us, we can control how we respond to it. When we are faced with challenges or emotional triggers, we have a choice. We can react impulsively and let our emotions take control, or we can take a step back, reflect, and respond thoughtfully. The act of reflection is not just about thinking, it's about choosing how to think. Instead of allowing ourselves to be swept away by anger, fear, or excitement, we can decide to pause, breathe, and think about the consequences of our actions. It's in these moments of reflection that we reclaim our power. By taking a moment to slow down, we allow ourselves the space to make decisions that are aligned with our values, goals, and long-term vision, rather than acting out of the immediate urge to do something or feel better. This process of reflection doesn't mean becoming passive or indecisive. Rather, it means developing the discipline to act with purpose and intentionality. It involves cultivating emotional awareness and the wisdom to choose the right course of action in each moment. Number 8. Never seek to impress. We live in a world that constantly pressures us to look good, act a certain way, and gain the approval of others. Social media, workplaces, and even everyday encounters can make us feel like we need to put on a show for others. But the truth is, constantly seeking to impress people is not only exhausting, but also ultimately harmful to our well-being. The need to impress is rooted in vanity, and vanity is the enemy of inner peace. It distracts us from what truly matters, our own character and the quality of our relationships. At its core, the desire to impress others is driven by an external validation. We often seek recognition, compliments, and admiration because we want to feel valued and accepted. The problem, however, is that this validation is temporary and shallow. When we base our self-worth on how others see us, we allow ourselves to be at the mercy of their ever-changing opinions. Today, someone might admire you for your achievements, but tomorrow, they might find something else to praise, leaving you constantly chasing after their approval, never truly satisfied with yourself. This desire to impress others also ties into our fear of judgment. We become so concerned with what others think that we begin to act in ways that don't align with who we really are. This creates a sense of disconnection from our true selves. Imagine putting on a mask every day, trying to be someone you're not to fit in or to be admired. Over time, the mask becomes heavier, and the effort to maintain this facade drains your energy and peace of mind. You might gain praise or attention, but deep down you'll know that it's not for who you truly are. It's for the image you've crafted to please others. It's important to realize that external events, situations, and people don't disturb us. Our judgments about them do. This wisdom comes from the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who said, "It is not the external things that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them." In other words, it's not other people's opinions or behaviors that cause us distress, it's our interpretation of those opinions. If we learn to stop seeking validation from outside sources, we reclaim control over our own happiness. Instead of letting others' judgments dictate how we feel about ourselves, we can focus on our own inner values and develop a sense of peace that doesn't depend on others' approval. Rather than seeking to impress others, we should focus on building a solid and virtuous character. This means investing in qualities like honesty, kindness, integrity, and self-respect. When we focus on becoming the best version of ourselves, not for others, but for our own growth, we naturally attract respect and admiration. People are drawn to authenticity. They recognize when someone is genuinely comfortable in their own skin, not because they're trying to impress anyone, but because they are focused on living with integrity and purpose. The more you focus on your inner growth, the more you will earn respect, not out of vanity, but because of the strength and authenticity you project. Number 9. Never indulge in anger or hatred. Anger is one of the most potent and destructive emotions we can experience. Like an unchecked fire, it can flare up suddenly, overwhelming us in moments when we least expect it. When anger takes hold, It doesn't just affect our immediate reaction, it begins to consume us from the inside. The more we give into it, the harder it becomes to regain control of our thoughts and actions. This loss of control can lead us to say things we don't mean, take actions that cause harm, or make decisions we later regret. In short, anger has the power to unravel the very fabric of our well-being if we let it run unchecked. At its core, anger distorts our perception of reality. It clouds our judgment, turning a simple disagreement or a minor frustration into a much bigger, often irrational issue. When we are angry, it becomes difficult to see past the offense. Our minds become laser-focused on what's happened, to the exclusion of everything else. We may forget that the person who upset us is also human, with their own flaws and struggles. This narrow focus prevents us from responding with understanding and compassion. Instead, we react emotionally, letting the moment dictate our response rather than our values or wisdom. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, offers an insightful warning about the dangers of anger. He famously said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." This is a powerful observation. Often the pain we cause ourselves by allowing anger to take over is greater than the pain caused by the original offense. The person who upset us may have already moved on, but we're left carrying the weight of our fury, and it often lasts much longer than the incident itself. What was initially a small conflict has the potential to grow into a much larger source of personal turmoil, affecting our emotional and mental peace. A wise person understands that controlling anger is not just a matter of discipline, it is a sign of strength. When we stay calm in the face of provocation, we retain control over ourselves and our emotions. This doesn't mean that we become emotionless or detached. Rather, it means that we choose to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It's in these moments of emotional calmness that we demonstrate true character. It's not always easy, especially when emotions are running high, but learning to pause before reacting can make all the difference in how we navigate our relationships and our inner peace. The problem with indulging in anger is that it's often a fleeting emotion that leaves behind long-term consequences. In the heat of the moment, anger might feel powerful, even righteous, but it rarely leads to positive outcomes. A person who acts out of anger is less likely to find a real solution to the problem at hand. Instead, they may deepen the conflict or create new problems altogether. On the other hand, a person who responds with patience and self-control is more likely to find a way to address the issue thoughtfully without escalating the situation unnecessarily. Number 10. Never let jealousy take root. Jealousy is a powerful emotion that can quietly take root in our hearts and minds, often leading us down a path of insecurity and discontent. At its core, jealousy is a sickness of the soul, a feeling that arises when we start comparing ourselves to others. Whether it's a colleague getting promoted, a friend finding success in their personal life, or even someone else's talents or possessions, jealousy often stems from a place of fear. The fear of losing something we value, the fear that we are not good enough, or the fear that others are somehow more deserving than we are. What we fail to realize is that jealousy doesn't arise from external circumstances, but from our internal beliefs and fears. When we begin comparing our lives to others, we start to feel like we're falling short, that somehow we're missing out on what life has to offer. This can be particularly damaging in today's age of social media, where people often share only the highlights of their lives, making others feel inadequate or left behind. However, it's important to understand that these comparisons are not real or meaningful. The truth is, everyone's journey is unique. Just because someone else has achieved something we desire, it doesn't diminish the value of our own achievements or our own path. One of the greatest pieces of wisdom on this topic comes from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who reminds us that life is not meant to unfold the way we wish it would, but the way it actually does. As he said, "Don't wish for things to be as you wish, but as they are." This simple yet profound statement teaches us the art of acceptance, the ability to look at the reality of our lives as they are without wishing for things to be different. Instead of resenting others for what they have or what they've accomplished, we are encouraged to accept our own unique circumstances and find peace with them. In doing so, we stop the cycle of jealousy before it even begins. The moment we let go of the desire for other people's success, we free ourselves to focus on our own growth. Everyone's path is different, and that's what makes life interesting. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to success or happiness. What works for one person may not work for another. Instead of constantly measuring ourselves against others, we should embrace our own individual journey. This can be a liberating realization that we don't need to have what someone else has in order to be happy or fulfilled. What we need is to trust the process of our own lives, even when it doesn't look like someone else's. Trusting your own path is not always easy, but it is essential for your well-being. Jealousy often creeps in when we start questioning our worth or the validity of our experiences. We may feel inadequate or as if we're missing out on something important. However, if we can remind ourselves that we are on our own unique journey, we begin to see that our experiences, struggles, and successes are just as valuable as anyone else's. Number 11. Never be desperate for attention. The desire for attention is something most people can relate to. But when that desire becomes desperate, it can be a sign of weakness. Desperation for attention reveals an internal insecurity that can significantly affect one's life and relationships. It stems from the need for external validation, as though one's sense of worth depends entirely on the reactions of others. In truth, this kind of behavior undermines confidence and only invites pity rather than respect. People who are constantly desperate for attention often come across as needy, restless, and emotionally unstable, and this can make it difficult for them to maintain meaningful relationships or command the respect they might seek. A person who is desperate for attention may find themselves constantly chasing approval from others. This need for validation becomes a driving force in their life, and they begin to make decisions based not on their values or desires, but on the reactions they expect from those around them. This external dependency leads to a kind of emotional volatility. When they receive attention, they may feel momentarily validated, but when it is lacking, they may experience anxiety, frustration, or even despair. This creates a cycle of emotional highs and lows, as the person's sense of self-worth constantly fluctuates based on external feedback. The Stoic approach offers a powerful antidote to this cycle of dependence on others. According to Stoicism, true confidence and peace of mind come from within, not from external sources. A Stoic does not beg for attention, nor does he feel anxious when it is not forthcoming. Instead, his confidence is rooted in self-sufficiency. He knows that his worth does not depend on the opinions of others, and he is not reliant on constant praise or approval. Musonius Rufus, a Stoic philosopher, emphasized this idea when he said, "He who is not a slave to his desires is a master of himself." In other words, if you can free yourself from the constant craving for approval, you become the true master of your own life. Desperation for attention often arises from a sense of inadequacy or insecurity. Many people feel a deep need to be noticed because they believe that being recognized will somehow fill the emotional void they feel inside. However, this approach is flawed. Chasing attention can never truly satisfy that inner emptiness. The more you seek external validation, the more it slips away, and the more restless and unsettled you become. True satisfaction comes not from the recognition of others, but from within yourself. When you learn to be content with who you are, without needing others to affirm your worth, you begin to break free from the endless pursuit of attention. A Stoic sense of self-worth is not tied to external circumstances, nor does it depend on the praise or criticism of others. Instead, it is grounded in the pursuit of personal virtues and inner growth. When you stop chasing after external recognition, you free yourself from the chains of constant desire. Number 12. Never display uncertainty or insecurity. In life, one of the most powerful assets you can possess is a sense of unshakable confidence in yourself. When you project uncertainty or insecurity, it not only weakens your own resolve but can also make others question your abilities and judgment. The way you carry yourself, especially in challenging moments, has a profound impact on how others perceive you. People naturally look for signs of strength and leadership and a confident demeanor, no matter the external circumstances, signals that you are someone who can be trusted and relied upon. The truth is, doubt is contagious, and when you show insecurity, it becomes harder to inspire trust or confidence in others. On the other hand, a firm, self-assured stance, even in the face of uncertainty, sets you apart as someone who is capable of handling any situation that comes their way. As the Roman emperor and philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words hold a timeless truth that applies not just to those in leadership positions, but to everyone striving for personal growth and success. Life is full of external challenges, unexpected setbacks, unforeseen difficulties, and constant changes. But what truly determines your success is not what happens around you, but how you respond to it. When faced with adversity, you have the choice to either react with panic and doubt or to rise above it with calm confidence. By understanding that your mind is your most powerful tool, you gain the ability to navigate life's challenges with resilience and clarity. Confidence doesn't mean you have to know everything or never feel unsure. It's about trusting your ability to figure things out, no matter the circumstances. Life is not always predictable, and there will be moments when you feel uncertain or out of your depth. But the key is not to display that uncertainty to the outside world. Rather than being paralyzed by fear or doubt, take a moment to center yourself and then move forward with the belief that you can handle whatever comes next. Confidence is built on action, not on having all the answers. It is the ability to continue forward with trust in your skills and judgment, even when the path ahead seems unclear. Relying too heavily on external validation can also undermine your confidence. We all seek approval and reassurance from time to time, but the more you depend on others to tell you that you're doing well, the more you weaken your ability to make decisions on your own. Confidence grows when you trust yourself enough to make decisions without constantly seeking others' opinions. Yes, feedback can be valuable, but it should never be the cornerstone of your self-assurance. When you trust your own instincts and judgment, you develop a sense of independence that allows you to remain calm and assured, even in the face of criticism or doubt from others. Remember, there will always be people who challenge your choices, but if you are confident in your own mind and abilities, their opinions will have far less power over you. Number 13. Never lie to gain favor. Lying, though often seen as a quick and convenient way to navigate difficult situations, is a dangerous game that undermines everything we value in life. It's tempting to lie to avoid discomfort, to gain approval, or to advance our own interests. But at what cost? A lie, no matter how small or seemingly harmless, chips away at the foundation of our character. The truth, on the other hand, is the pillar upon which we build our integrity, trust, and sense of self. Once broken, trust is incredibly difficult to rebuild, and the harm caused extends beyond others to ourselves. When we lie, we not only betray others, but we also betray our own soul. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Truth is in what you say and in what you do." This reminds us that truth isn't just about telling the right words. It's about living in alignment with our beliefs, actions, and values. Integrity is the harmony between what we say and what we do, and when we lie, we disrupt this harmony. We are not only deceiving those around us, but also distorting our own internal compass. Living truthfully means embracing our reality, however uncomfortable or challenging it may be, because to stray from truth is to stray from who we truly are. The Stoic path demands that we walk with unwavering integrity. For the Stoic, honor is not something that can be traded or bartered for personal gain. It is an inherent part of who they are, a core principle that cannot be compromised. To gain favor through dishonesty may provide short-term benefits, but it leaves us vulnerable to the corrosive effects of shame, guilt, and self-doubt. A person who lies to gain favor may seem to win the admiration of others, but deep down, they know they have sacrificed their own self-respect. To live in accordance with integrity, on the other hand, means to embrace a higher standard, one that prioritizes truth over comfort or success. There is a certain peace that comes with knowing you are living truthfully, even when the truth is difficult to face. For the Stoic, this peace is worth more than any superficial approval gained through dishonesty. The Stoic doesn't seek to deceive or manipulate others for personal advantage. Instead, they hold themselves to a higher standard, one that values authenticity and respect over convenience. It may not always be easy to do the right thing, especially when lying might offer immediate relief or a sense of control. But the Stoic understands that the true test of character comes not in moments of ease, but in the times when it is hardest to be honest. Honesty doesn't just impact our interactions with others, it also shapes our relationship with ourselves. When we lie, we create a disconnect between our actions and our inner beliefs. We tell ourselves that we can get away with it, but in truth, we are only lying to ourselves. The Stoic approach requires radical self-awareness and the courage to face uncomfortable truths about who we are and what we stand for. This might mean admitting mistakes, owning up to our faults, or acknowledging areas where we are falling short. Number 14. Never engage in self-pity. In life, we all face moments of hardship, times when things don't go as planned, when disappointment strikes, or when the weight of the world feels unbearable. During these moments, it's easy to slip into a mindset of self-pity, where everything seems unfair, and we see ourselves as powerless victims of circumstance. However, this response, though natural, is one of the most destructive mindsets we can adopt. Self-pity is like a poison to the soul. It drains your energy, dims your potential, and keeps you stuck in a cycle of despair. The Stoics, ancient philosophers who valued wisdom and resilience above all else, taught us that the key to navigating hardship is not through self-pity, but through accepting what we cannot change and focusing on what we can. At its core, self-pity distorts reality. It tells you that you're helpless, that the challenges you face are too much for you to handle, and that you are a passive participant in your own life. But the truth is, self-pity undermines your power to act. When you view yourself as a victim, you stop taking responsibility for your actions, choices, and responses. You begin to believe that your circumstances control you, rather than the other way around. A person consumed by self-pity stops asking, "What can I do to improve this situation?" and instead asks, "Why is this happening to me?" By doing so, you give away your power and agency. The Stoics, including the great philosopher Seneca, teach us that we must never allow ourselves to sink into a victim mentality. Don't waste time on what you cannot change, Seneca advises. This simple yet profound statement reminds us that while life will throw challenges our way, some expected, some unexpected, we have very little control over many of the circumstances that happen to us. The weather changes, other people act unpredictably, and unforeseen events occur. But we do have control over how we react to these events. Instead of wasting time lamenting what cannot be undone, the Stoics suggest that we shift our focus to what we can change, our attitude, our responses, and our actions. This mindset is empowering because it places you back in the driver's seat of your life. You might not be able to control the situation, but you can certainly control your response to it. For example, if you lose a job, it's understandable to feel frustration and disappointment, but self-pity would trap you in a cycle of bitterness and self-blame, whereas a Stoic approach would encourage you to reflect on the lessons learned, identify the next steps, and take action to find new opportunities. The Stoics understood that hardship is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced as part of the human experience. It is through challenges that we grow, develop resilience, and ultimately become stronger. Rather than letting adversity define you, view it as an opportunity to redefine yourself. Every challenge you face, no matter how painful, is a chance to build character, wisdom, and inner strength. This is the Stoic perspective. Number 15. Never seek to control others. In life, many people fall into the trap of thinking that controlling others will bring them power or respect. It's easy to believe that if we can dictate the thoughts, feelings, and actions of those around us, we will be able to shape our world to our liking. However, the truth is that this type of control is an illusion, a false sense of power. The real power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. The moment you try to control someone else, you not only lose your own strength, but you also undermine the very relationships that could bring you true success and fulfillment. At first glance, trying to control others might seem like an efficient way to get things done or achieve your goals. If only you could make people think and act in a way that fits your desires, everything would fall into place, right? However, this approach is inherently flawed. When you focus all your energy on influencing and changing others, you end up neglecting the one thing you can actually control: yourself. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions are yours to govern, and mastering them is the foundation for any real power you might seek. By learning to control your own reactions and mindset, you establish a sense of inner strength that no external influence can take away from you. Furthermore, controlling others is a fragile and often damaging form of power. When people feel like they are being controlled, they may act out of obligation or fear, but they won't be motivated by respect or loyalty. This can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and a breakdown of trust. Relationships built on manipulation and control are rarely healthy, and they seldom last. Rather than trying to control how others behave, focus on creating a space where mutual respect and understanding can flourish. This allows for genuine connection and collaboration, as opposed to strained, forced interactions. In his writings, Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, expressed a profound insight. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. What he meant by this is that when faced with negativity or hostility, our best response is not to retaliate in kind. The desire to control others often arises from a place of conflict or insecurity, and if you respond in the same way, you only perpetuate the cycle. Instead, rise above these challenges by maintaining your integrity and acting with calm and dignity. By refusing to engage in manipulative behaviors, you not only protect your own peace but also demonstrate a higher level of character and strength that others will respect. Control also comes at a great personal cost. The constant effort to manipulate others' behavior can be exhausting, and it distracts you from the things that truly matter. You'll find yourself constantly adjusting your actions and words, trying to keep people in line or force them to act in a certain way. This is not only mentally draining, but it can leave you feeling empty because your focus is always outward on what others are doing, rather than inward on your own growth. Number 16. Never be afraid to speak the truth. The truth is often a double-edged sword. It can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is always empowering. When we choose to hide the truth, we unintentionally create barriers that separate us from the world and from ourselves. These barriers are built on fear, uncertainty, and sometimes outright lies. Yet when we have the courage to speak the truth, we break down those walls and set ourselves free. The freedom that comes with being honest is not just a relief. It's a powerful way to live authentically and without the burden of pretending to be something we're not. It's important to recognize that the truth is not always easy to hear or speak. In fact, sometimes it can be downright uncomfortable. When we face difficult truths, it may feel like we are exposing ourselves to judgment or conflict. But this discomfort is often the catalyst for growth. Truth is what allows us to confront the reality of situations, however challenging they may be. If we always choose to ignore or sugarcoat the truth, we prevent ourselves from solving problems or improving relationships. The discomfort that comes with speaking truthfully is often short-lived, but the clarity and relief that follow are lasting. The act of speaking the truth is a direct expression of integrity. Integrity is about being whole and undivided in our thoughts, words, and actions. It means staying true to ourselves, even when the world around us encourages us to bend or compromise. Without integrity, we become fractured individuals, torn between what we know to be right and the pressures that tell us to conform. But when we speak the truth, we align our actions with our core values, making us more confident, more grounded, and more connected to our true selves. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "If you wish to be a philosopher, you must stop being a slave to the opinions of others." This statement is a reminder that seeking validation or approval from others can trap us in a cycle of fear and inauthenticity. When we live in constant worry about what others think of us, we are not truly free. We are living under the shadow of external expectations. But the moment we speak the truth, regardless of how others might react, we take back our personal power. We stop being slaves to their judgments and instead live according to our own values and principles. Speaking the truth isn't just about saying whatever comes to mind. It's about expressing ourselves clearly and directly, with a sense of responsibility and care. Being truthful requires a certain level of clarity. When we speak plainly and without manipulation, we avoid misunderstandings and prevent unnecessary confusion. Whether it's a small issue or something more serious, clear communication is key to building trust. If we speak indirectly or vaguely, we leave room for assumptions and misinterpretations. By being honest and direct, we create an environment where people can understand us and we can understand them. Number 17. Never show excessive emotion. Emotions are an essential part of being human. We all experience moments of deep sorrow, intense anger, or overwhelming joy. However, the Stoic philosophy teaches us that while emotions are natural, it is important not to allow them to control us. Instead of being swept away by our feelings, the Stoic aims to master them. Excessive emotion, no matter the kind, can disturb our inner peace and make it difficult to think clearly. The key is not to deny our emotions, but to manage them wisely. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, gives us valuable insight on how to approach our emotions. He compares them to the waves of the sea, saying, "Let your emotions be like the waves of the sea, to rise and fall with reason and virtue." This image is a powerful one. Just as the sea's waves rise and fall naturally, our emotions too will come and go. But they should not overwhelm us. Like the sea, we can allow our feelings to emerge, yet keep them under control, guided by reason and virtue. When we feel emotions deeply, they can take over our minds and bodies. We might lash out in anger, break down in tears, or act impulsively in a burst of joy. In these moments, we lose control of our thoughts and actions. Stoicism teaches that this lack of control can lead to negative consequences. When we let anger or frustration take charge, we may say or do things that hurt others and create unnecessary conflict. Excessive joy, on the other hand, can cloud our judgment, leading us to take risks or overlook important responsibilities. To avoid such pitfalls, Stoicism encourages us to pause, reflect, and act with careful consideration. Mastering our emotions requires self-awareness. It means recognizing when we're about to be overwhelmed by an emotion and taking a step back. Instead of reacting impulsively, we ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? What is the most reasonable response to this situation? By taking this pause, we give ourselves the space to choose how we respond, rather than letting our emotions dictate our actions. This practice strengthens our emotional resilience and helps us maintain control, even in challenging situations. One of the greatest dangers of excessive emotion is that it can not only harm us but also affect those around us. Whether at work, with friends, or in family situations, emotional outbursts can create tension and disrupt relationships. People may feel uncomfortable, alienated, or even resentful when we let our emotions overwhelm us. By practicing Stoic emotional control, we create a more harmonious environment. Our calmness can inspire others to stay composed, and our measured responses can foster trust and understanding. In a world where emotional reactions often fuel conflict, being a calm and reasoned presence can have a profound impact. The Stoic perspective on emotions is not about suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. It is about recognizing that emotions, while powerful, should be kept in check. Just as the waves of the sea never stay at their peak forever, our emotions too will naturally ebb and flow. Number 18. Never let your actions be guided by external opinion. It's natural to want approval from others. From a young age, we're taught to seek validation from our family, friends, teachers, and society in general. Whether it's compliments, praise, or just the desire to fit in, external opinions often shape our decisions, actions, and self-worth. However, basing your life on the approval of others can lead to confusion, anxiety, and a constant sense of uncertainty. The truth is, the only opinion that truly matters is your own. and how you see yourself. Imagine living each day thinking about how others might judge you. What would it feel like to constantly seek validation from the outside world? You might make decisions based on what you believe will please people, rather than what aligns with your own values or aspirations. This constant need for approval can strip away your authenticity and turn your life into a series of reactions to the opinions of others. It's an exhausting way to live, and it leads to a sense of emptiness, because you're never truly living for yourself. To break free from this cycle, you must focus on understanding and cultivating your own sense of self-worth. This means developing an internal compass based on your principles, your values, and your understanding of what is truly important in life. When you base your actions on your own convictions, rather than the fleeting judgments of others, you begin to live more intentionally. You act from a place of strength and clarity, not fear of criticism or desire for applause. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, offers timeless advice in his writings. He suggests that we should live according to nature and reason, rather than being swayed by the applause or criticism of others. This means embracing who we are, recognizing our strengths and weaknesses, and making decisions based on logic and virtue, rather than external approval. The applause of others may feel good for a moment, but it is often shallow and short-lived. Criticism, on the other hand, can be hurtful and demotivating if you let it dictate your self-worth. Both are distractions from what truly matters. When you start living according to your own values, it's like finding an inner anchor that holds you steady in the face of external noise. Your confidence no longer depends on what others think of you. Instead, it is rooted in your own understanding of what is right and just. You learn to trust your judgment, and your actions reflect your true self. This brings a deep sense of peace and fulfillment, because you know that you're living in alignment with who you really are, not who others expect you to be. But this doesn't mean you should ignore others entirely. Feedback, advice, and criticism can be helpful in certain situations, but they should never define you. When you're confident in your values and principles, you can listen to others without allowing their opinions to sway your sense of self. You can take constructive criticism and use it for growth, but it shouldn't shake your core belief in who you are and what you stand for. Men, there is a path before us, a path that few will dare to walk. It's not the easy road paved with comforts and instant gratification, but the one that demands something more from us: self-discipline, courage, and an unwavering commitment to inner strength. It is the path of self-mastery, and it is one that will shape us into the men we are meant to be. This journey is not for the faint of heart, but it is the only way to live a life of true meaning and purpose. Every day, we are presented with countless distractions, desires that pull us in every direction, emotions that rise and fall like waves. The world encourages us to chase after fleeting pleasures, to seek validation from others, and to let our moods dictate our actions. But the Stoic teaches us that this is not the way to live. The Stoic is not a man who lets his emotions control him. He is not a slave to his impulses or the whims of the world. Instead, he is a man who takes charge of his own life, who chooses his responses deliberately, and who walks a path of inner strength and steady resolve. To be a Stoic is to understand that true power comes from within. It is not about pleasing others or seeking approval from the outside world. The Stoic does not measure his worth by what others think of him, but by how he holds himself in the face of adversity. He walks with purpose, with integrity, knowing that the respect he earns from himself is the only respect that truly matters. This respect is not something that can be given or taken by others. It is something that is earned through actions, through consistency, and through the strength of character that comes from living with purpose. The Stoic is a man who stands unshaken, even when everything around him seems to crumble. The world may be filled with chaos, noise, and confusion, but he remains steady. He knows that there will always be obstacles, challenges, and moments of doubt. But instead of being overwhelmed by them, he faces each challenge with clarity and calmness. He understands that his true power lies in his ability to remain grounded, to act with reason and wisdom, no matter how turbulent the storm may be. This is a way of living that demands more from us than simply existing. It is a life of intention, of choices made not out of impulse but out of a deep commitment to our values. It calls for discipline in every aspect of our lives, our actions, our words, and our thoughts. The Stoic doesn't seek shortcuts or easy wins. He knows that true growth comes through struggle, through facing discomfort, and through constantly pushing himself to be better than he was yesterday. He doesn't shy away from hardship. He faces it head on, knowing that it is through hardship that we are forged into the men we are meant to be. But this path is not just about personal strength, it is about how we relate to the world around us. The Stoic understands that there will always be forces beyond his control, things that happen in life that he cannot change. But instead of letting these things disturb his peace, he focuses on what he can control: his own thoughts, his own actions, his own character.